Hey guys, Kelly Dunlap here. Welcome to day 3. I'm just going to make sure that I'm live in the group. Yay, I see that we are live. So once you hop on, once you are with me, just say hello in the comments and then we'll get rocking and rolling. Cool. Awesome. Okay. So happy that you are here with me today. So we're going to go over some really great stuff. Make sure to say hello when you're here. Happy Thursday, by the way. Okay. So let's rock and roll. Day 3. You are what you digest. Holy moly, we have learned so much these last 2 days, right? So we today during day 3 are going to learn some more stuff. For some of you, it might be a like an excellent reminder. I always say 70 times 7,000, meaning that you could never, ever hear something enough, because you're always going to get something new out of it. Typically we hear certain things that we either, we need at the time, but we're not willing to receive it, So, okay, so welcome. So here we go. So day 3, we're going to talk about the physiology and the psychology of everything. And basically, we're going to piece it all together tonight. So what I want to talk about briefly are the things that we've covered. So on, Tuesday night, we talked about digestion and all of the amazingness about digestion. We talked about how the food digestion process begins in the mouth, and then the food becomes a bolus, and it gets broken down in the stomach, and even more so in the stomach. We've got the gallbladder, the pancreas that takes place, all of the things. But it's not really about what we eat. It's about how much we're able to, well, it is about what we eat, but it's really about what we are able to absorb and how important it is, the food quality that we're eating, in addition, because of the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell. So we covered so much. And that's just a brief recap of that. And then yesterday we talked a little bit more. We talked about the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, and how looking at different nutrition, how you're affected. And even on Tuesday night, we talked about the journey of the chicken sandwich. We talked about the macros and, the different transit times and all of that. So there was so much value provided. And I hope that within the last couple of days that you were able to really take that information and say, okay, now I'm kind of seeing this whole thing through a different lens, right? So what I want to talk about tonight is we're going to talk about the brain and the mind, and how your body is affected overall by that. As you guys know, I'm an NLP practitioner, which stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. And that just means that I am able to help people to understand their thoughts, their thinking, their belief systems, understand when they made these decisions that end up governing their life situations and things like that. So there's a lot of the mindset piece that goes into making change, especially when it comes to making body change, hormones, things like that, digestion. It all ties in together. So for somebody to think that the mindset has nothing to do with your physical appearance, they are absolutely wrong. It all ties in together. And when I say 2 brains, 1 mind, there's actually, I want to talk about 3 brains, because when I say 2 brains, 1 mind, I'm talking about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. I do a lot of subconscious work with my clients. For example, I'm working with somebody to stop smoking. We did some subconscious work there. I'm helping somebody with getting off pop, which is another addiction, and that's been tremendous. We just figured out today that she's been drinking pop for 43 years, and with some subconscious work, we've been able to really make significant changes, and really do some cool things. So you've got the conscious mind, which is your goal setter, but your subconscious mind is really your goal getter. And the subconscious mind is really where a lot of what you do comes from. And just a fun fact for you, the subconscious mind is only 7 years old. So a lot of the beliefs and decisions and things that you make were decided as a child, around these impressionable adults, and female family members and such that you've been around. But I want to say three brains because there's also the gut. Okay. The gut is also considered a brain, and we're going to talk about that just a little bit. Boy, that gut keeps coming up, doesn't it? So we're going to talk about the gut brain connection. And with the gut brain connection, there is something that kind of moves back and forth, like from like the base of our head, and it kind of like rolls up and down, like from the base of the head down to the gut area. And this is called the vagus brain, the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is responsible for a lot of different things that go on within our body, but we're not going to go into the vagus nerve. I just wanted to bring the vagus nerve up to you. But what we are going to go more in depth on is neurotransmitters. Now, you may have heard me briefly touch on neurotransmitters the past couple nights, and I talked about how I really work a lot with these with my clients. I really pay close attention to what's going on with their neurotransmitters. Now, you can go in depth and have a urine test done and all of these things, which I have had done with the functional medicine doctor that I have to be partnered with. But I do also have a quiz that is like, I don't know, 8 pages or something, but it gives us a very good snapshot as to where the individual is in their mind and their thoughts and thinking and things, because there's a lot of times if you are, and this comes into the deficiencies, right? So we talked about deficiencies yesterday. But when you are deficient in certain neurotransmitters, you are going to it's going to affect your life. You're going to live your life in a very different way. And just so you know that neurotransmitters are produced where? In the gut. Has everything to do with that microbiome. So once again, that gut, you guys, okay? So what in the heck are neurotransmitters, right? So basically, neurotransmitters are signals that happen in the brain. Like they, there's all these like signaling things that because I think dopamine is probably the most common one that people are most affected by. Dopamine is basically your get shit done neurotransmitter. Okay, it is released in your brain when it's expecting a reward. So the thing with dopamine is that, it's a double-edged sword, because sometimes dopamine is related a lot of times with bad behaviors, right? So oftentimes people will do things that aren't maybe in their best interest, but they get a high out of it, right? And that's like a reward. So it's like the reward center. And so bad behaviors that get rewards will be repeated. And so this could even go down to, like you get a reward or a satisfaction from sneaking a bag of cookies and eating them and thinking that you're getting away with it, right? And so you're getting like this high from that. Again, dopamine's released when your brain's expecting rewards. So when you come to associate that certain activity with a pleasure, there's that mere anticipation just maybe enough to raise the dopamine. Okay. So I call it the dopamine hit. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. We're going to talk about what I call the patterns of power in just a moment. So the dopamine neurotransmitter is also known as the feel-good neurotransmitter. So it is, like I said, involved in rewards and motivation. Several types, and just a side note, several types of addictive drugs increase dopamine levels in the brain. And again, like I said, it's very much associated with addictive behaviors like smoking, for example. Okay, so I'm going to talk about dopamine hits because this is something that I think a lot of you will resonate with. And this is, I call this the patterns of power method. This is something that I created based off of something else that, what the heck was it called? It was called the emotional cycle of change, I believe, that I had learned from the 12-week year. The 12-week year is a kind of a cool system, but we don't need to go into that. But I kept regurgitating this thing called the emotional cycle of change. And my mentor, Dr. Jay Tita, had said to me, you know what, Kelly, like you need to like apply that same thing, like model the same thing, but make it your own. And so that's what I did. So it's called the patterns of power. Now, you'll see on the left side that there is the unempowered state. And then on the right side, you'll see that there is the empowered state. And at the top, it says phase 1, and that's where I have dopamine hit, and you're just outcome focused, meaning that you're not recognizing the steps in the journey that is involved with the change that you have, coming your way, right? So, well, let's say we are like, okay, I'm going to start on Monday. I'm starting this new system. I'm going to do, this new diet or this new workout program or whatever it may be. And you get super excited because all you're thinking about is the outcome. You're not thinking about the challenges that you're going to face once you start moving forward, and the self-defeating type of thoughts and thinking, or the challenges that come up. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So that's where phase 2 comes in, and that's where you start to have some awareness of consequences. Now, for me, the dopamine hit happened every Monday, because this was going to be it. I'm changing for sure this time, and then Thursday would come. And then I'd be like, oh, yeah, I had a good week, but Jesus, and everybody's going to happy hour. So the weekend would come, and then that would be where I was like, okay, fuck this. This is too hard. I want to go to happy hour. I want to enjoy Sally's bachelorette party. Forget this. You know what? I'll just start next Monday or next week or whatever, because there was always something. I was always finding an excuse to turn back around, right? Instead of going through phase 3, which is an uncomfortable hallway, instead of saying, you know what, God, this is hard, and Jesus, God, I just got to stick it out, and I know this is difficult, and I really want to, do this or that. Instead of like taking a deep breath and noticing like, yeah, this is going to be uncomfortable, and yeah, maybe I can go to happy hour, but just have one cocktail and go home, but I knew, like, for me personally, if I had one, it turned into 10, And so we all have those things, right? You have one cookie, you have a whole bag. You have one chip, you have the whole bag, right? So what I was doing, and unbeknownst to me, was I was addicted to the dopamine hit of starting over. So I would always start over every Monday. So it was like I was perfect or shit show. It was an all or nothing mindset for me. But then until and when I finally realized that, I was always just going to phase 1 and 2. I was like, oh my God, I was living my life for 20 years there. I never really processed my way through the uncomfortable hallway, which is where the real, true change and transformation takes place. And that's what I call the uncomfortable hallway. That's just a terminology that you'll hear me say if you hang out with me a lot. I talk about the uncomfortable hallway, right? So we have to work our way to that uncomfortable hallway. And sometimes it means that we need to lock arms, with somebody. We need to, have a coach, or we need to find a community that is going to take us, and lift us higher. So once we walk through those uncomfortable hallways, that's when we start to get those wins, and we are moving over onto the other side, which is the empowered state. So most people that see this are like, holy fucking shit, me too. Or you gotta be goddamn, oh my God, I've been living my life through phase 1 and 2 as well. Holy shit. Right. But nobody points it out. Nobody like recognizes it. So, it's kind of a hard truth to face, but it's like, oh my God, once you recognize this, that maybe that's what you're doing, then you can make the change. So the uncomfortable hallways come all the time. You just have to be aware of what your hallways are and what you keep avoiding. Did you hear what I just said? What you keep avoiding. Okay. So once you get on that other side, your success and fulfillment side, then you start to really believe in yourself. And I think that that's where what a lot of this comes down to, is that we lack that trust within ourselves. And so we're like, yeah, I can never do that. Yeah, that's not me. She can do it, not me. Fuck that. I could never. Like, how many times have you said that? I used to say that shit all the time. Now I'm like, I can do whatever the fuck I want. You know what I mean? Now, trust me, I didn't always believe in myself in that way. Now I believe that I can do whatever I set my mind to, but it took me so much time. It took me a lot of years to get to that point. But I steadily stayed focused on that. I kept, what I kept doing is I kept embracing and looking for those hallways. I kept looking for them. And, that is, it's not an easy place to be in, but it's basically you're saying, okay, I surrender. I surrendered to my bullshit, and I am so tired of my stupid excuses. And I am so, this where I'm at is so painful that I just can't do this anymore. And I'll tell you, that's really where I got to. And that's what I always tell my clients. It's like, if you are not willing to make this change that you know that you need to do, then where you are is not painful enough. It is not painful enough. And when it is painful for you, that is when I know that the change is truly going to happen. So put in the comments if this is, something that you recognize or that you relate, like do you see yourself in this pattern? Are you stuck between phase 1 and 2? Okay. So then we're going to move on to the next neurotransmitter that I pay attention to, because there's 4 of them that I particularly pay attention to with my clients, which is acetylcholine. Now, acetylcholine plays a large role in arousal, your attention and focus, your learning, your memory, and it's also involved in your REM sleep. Okay, acetylcholine is the chief neurotransmitter of parasympathetic nervous system, and we'll talk about that. So acetylcholine is an interesting one, and I really want you to remember the whole thing when it comes down to memory with acetylcholine. Because I know for a fact that if my memory is kind of like, then I know, like, okay, I'm having issues with my acetylcholine. Okay, moving on. GABA. GABA is very closely related to dopamine. Oftentimes, well, let me just say this. Most of the world is GABA oriented, and a GABA oriented individual is, let me back this up for a second. Let me talk about dopamine. So dopamine is, these are also tied into a dominance also. So dopamine, for example, is very much tied into individuals who are like very driven and motivated. They know what they want. It's like, lead, follower, get the fuck out of my way kind of a person. Your acetylcholine individual is more so like your artsy, craftsy, also very in tuned individual. They see the world through a different lens. And then your GABA is more like your steady Eddie. Your GABA is a person that typically, if they're more GABA dominant, they are typically people who desire the routines, and they love really strict kind of routines and such because they don't like uncertainty. And so if somebody who is more GABA dominant, meaning that they have the tendency to have more, GABA receptors, and if they're in deficiency, they feel way out of whack. Okay. Way out of whack. So most of the time what I pay the most attention to is GABA, because I know that if I can level out the GABA, then the dopamine is going to move right along with it. So those two are very closely tied together. It significantly influences the activity of dopamine. So I always focus on that GABA. It contributes to motor control, vision, and it just also regulates anxiety. Okay, so do you see now when I talk about this, what am I talking about? Like depression, I've talked about anxiety, and do you see how all of this relates back to what? That fucking gut, right? It's pretty crazy. Serotonin, that's a very familiar one, right? Serotonin, serotonin levels, we got to keep our serotonin levels in a good place because it regulates your mood. It affects your social behaviors, your appetite. Serotonin's very closely related to cravings. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Your serotonin levels are very closely related to cravings, and your appetite also affects your digestion, your sleep, your memory, your sexual desire, and just your overall function. So a serotonin dominant individual is also somebody who is like the life of the party, but they are very much people who are, I don't know what you would say, kind of erratic as well. So, sorry, I forgot to move the slide. I just was going off of my paper. All right, so now we are going to talk about your environment and your physiology. So yesterday I touched on your environment, and I talked a little bit about how we have the internal and external environment. Now, they are both very much closely tied in together. Now, why is that? Why is it? It's because our environment, what we are exposed to, is going to affect our hormones. It's going to affect our mindset. It's going to affect our subconscious because we're always picking up messages, right? So messages are always being picked up and transmitted and translated through our subconscious mind. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment here too. And it's all about the way that we are perceiving things and the story that we're constantly telling ourselves. Okay. So our perception is our own, right? So you could have two people hear the same thing and they both take it completely different. And I think I talked about this. When did I talk about this? It was something with my son's school. And it was interesting because my husband and I both read the same email. I perceived it one way, he perceived it another way. And, you know, in my mind, nope, this is right. This is correct. And in his mind, nope, this is correct. This is how I'm reading it. Right. And so this is why you gotta be very, very careful to not place expectations, like your beliefs, your values, your memories and your situations and all that stuff on other people, because that is exactly what happened. We both read through it, and I'll show you this will make more sense in a moment. But the way that we perceive things, the way that we perceive things were very different. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the next day we got an email from that very same person saying, let me clarify something. Because why? He was getting people that perceived it the way I saw it, and then he was getting people that perceived it the way that he saw it. So there was a lot of confusion. Do you see what I mean? It's kind of interesting, right? So just so that you know that, there are messages that are always being picked up and transmitted within our mind. And it depends on also how we are living our life, the way that we perceive things too. So I mentioned earlier about the parasympathetic, and that had a lot to do with the acetylcholine. And I wanted to mention here too that we do have this autonomic nervous system. One is the parasympathetic and the other one is a sympathetic. So unfortunately, most of us live in the sympathetic mode, which is the fight or flight, also known as the stress mode, and that's where most of the world lives. When you see the seesaw here, you've got that person up and then the other one down. We really should be moving back and forth through both of these every day, every moment of our day. We really should be going back and forth, and moments of rest and digest and moments of fight or flight. But most of the time we are always in sympathetic, which is what? Telling our body, like I said yesterday, the body is not, maybe it was Monday, the body is not going to release weight when you're always in sympathetic fight or flight, because it thinks something's wrong, that it's unsafe, it's dysfunctional. So you'll see at the bottom I have dysfunction. Now, on the left side, you see that I've got the parasympathetic, and that means rest, digest, peace, you're chilling out, and that's more in alignment with function. Okay, I feel like I have a sneeze coming on, so just an FYI, I keep holding it off, but I think it's coming. Okay, there we go. Excuse me. My goodness. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. All right, so public service announcement, my friends. Your brain will collect evidence. And you're thinking, what are you talking about? It'll collect evidence. So there's something in our brain that's called the reticular activating system, and it's located in your brain, and it filters down all of the information, that we are taking in. So your subconscious mind is always pulling in all the time. And I want you to think about this. So 2.3 billion bits per second is what we are able to take in, and what we are basically inhaling and ingesting as far as like information goes through our five senses. Okay, down to 126 bits per second. So think about that in toothpicks. I want you to think about 2.3 billion toothpicks. Okay, 2.3 billion toothpicks is what our subconscious mind is pulling in, but our conscious mind is only getting 126 of those toothpicks. Okay, and those filters that I'm referring, we also filter through it, and the filters I want to refer to are our beliefs, our values, our identity, our mood, all of those things, right? And it's so fascinating, so I'm going to go back on that. But when I say collect evidence, I mean that if your mind is in a place of, let's say, making excuses, okay? So your belief might be, oh, it's not the right time. Because, yeah, I just can't do it right now. Because, well, when this happens, it'll be better. Because, well, it's just, yeah, I need for this to go on, and then that'll happen, and then that's going to trigger that, and then it'll be the right time, right? It's never the right time. It's never the right time. No, it's just never. You know what I mean? And if you find yourself saying that and you're full of bullshit excuses, and you keep buying into your own bullshit excuses, then you're never going to make change. Now, for some of you, I might be making you feel very uncomfortable. I'm aware of that. That is my job, is to help you to recognize your bullshit. Trust me, I get it. I used to do it all the time, right? And so if we buy into our bullshit, then we're never going to change, okay? So what I'm getting at is, when I go back to the RAS, the reticular activating system, is that if you are basically saying, well, it's not the right time because da 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 da, well, then your brain is going to say, okay, it's not the right time. Let me start to collect evidence for you to support that bullshit excuse of yours. So you got to be very careful. You have to be very, 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 very careful. So if you then flip the switch and you're just like, I can totally do this. I can absolutely 1000% do this. I got this. Well, then guess what? Your brain's going to start to collect evidence for you to support that. Okay? Let me say that again. Whatever it is that you're believing, okay, whether it's an excuse or on the opposite end of the spectrum of that, your brain is going to help to provide you that evidence. So here's an example. Let's say you're looking around for, you're shopping around and you're looking to buy a white car. Then what do you see all over the place? A white car. Oh, there's another white car. Oh, there's white cars everywhere. I don't know if I want a white car now, because the whole world has a white car, right? So do you see what I mean? So it's like this generated awareness, but your brain will always look for that evidence for you. The other thing that you could be buying into is your generational stories, another bullshit belief. I am just destined to have my mother's hips. I mean, it just is what it is. It's just, it's nothing I can change. Well, that's a lie, right? That's just something that people like to lean into because they don't want to do the work to maybe change the look, right? Another would be the lies. Again, this kind of ties into the first one too, which is, I will begin when, and I'm doing everything right. I hear that all the time. It's like, well, are you? And do you really understand and know what your body needs? Probably not. And I don't mean that in a condescending way, you guys. I'm not over here trying to be an asshole. I'm just trying to share with you, like, there's all of these things that I know is hindering your progress and keeping you stuck and right where you are. Okay? So the secret to your success, to everybody's success, it's state management. It's your state of mind. You have got to be in control and on top of your state of mind. Super, 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 super important at all times, because behaviors are state of mind dependent. Behaviors are state of mind dependent. Okay? An example of that would be, you don't feel well. State of mind is attached to not feeling well. You might eat a certain way because of that. Or let's say you're achy. And, we say, oh God, every time I feel like this, I just want to eat cookies. Or every time I feel that way, all I want is a bag of chips. Okay? You relating to this? If you are, put it in the comments. All right, so this is what I want to share. This is my favorite. I actually need to recreate this to brand it for my colors, because this is not my color scheme at all. But I love it. And I use it all the time, and this is not new to some people, but it's always a great refresher. So you'll see, I call this the NLP head, and you'll see over on the far right how I talk about, and I mentioned this earlier, so I kind of primed you for this, and I talk about the external event. So an external event was, remember how I mentioned my husband and I both reading an email, right? And we both interpreted it differently. So we have our senses that we put everything through, which is our visual, our auditory, our kinesthetics, smell and taste. Basically, it's all the five senses. Then once we inhale that information, we then take it and we delete, distort, and generalize things. So I'll give you another example of this here in just a moment. But once it then goes through that, then it goes through more filters of our values, our belief systems, our decisions, and past memories. Okay. So this whole thing here about let's say an external event happening, right? So I always use this analogy because I think everybody can remember this and relate to this. So do you remember, what was it, Super Bowl, the last Super Bowl, or maybe two of them ago? Two, not this last one, but the one before, with J-Lo and Shakira. So if you remember what happened all over Facebook, there were two very polarized audiences. There were people posting about like, oh my God, those women are powerful, amazing, gorgeous. I love them. They just motivated me to kick ass in my life. Then there was that was so fucking disgusting. I can't believe, right? And neither here nor there, it's not for me to judge either side. Now, I was definitely empowered. I wasn't disgusted by it by any means. You know, I mean, you can probably tell my tone of voice, so maybe I was kind of being a little bit biased there. But what I'm getting at is that everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but people were battling over this shit, right? People were battling. It was a very polarized thing. And it was all because, you know, they took it, they deleted, distorted, and generalized, then ran it through their own personal beliefs and values, their decisions and their memories, right? And hence the reason why they made that internal representation of what they saw, which then created the state of mind, which is the state of mind of, I'm empowered and I'm going to rock this shit. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to look like them or be like them or whatever. Or the state of mind of, oh, that really rubbed me the wrong way. I don't look or feel or anything of like what they're doing. So I just, I hated every minute of that. So then this whole psychology was created, or physiology, excuse me. The whole physiology, meaning that the body changes in some way, which then creates a behavior. Does this make sense to you? Okay. So we go through this all day long. So it's very, very, very important that we remember something. That everybody has their own view of the world, and we have to respect that and hope that they will respect ours. Now, if the whole world operated like this, we would be in a much happier place. But unfortunately, people get really pissed off if they realize that you don't see things the way that they do. And it can really cause problems in a lot of relationships. But if you understand that this is going on all day long in your life, and you might be going, oh my God, this is me and my husband, or holy shit, this is me and my coworker, oh my God, this is me and my mom, or you know what I mean? And so if you just consider perhaps where that person may be coming from, like maybe you have some history on like, oh, I get it now. Now I totally understand why, you know, they da-da-da. And you might give them some grace. And it's going to stop a lot of bullshit arguments and, you know, stuff like that. So this is really, really, really important. Why? Why for you in your journey of, you know, wanting to make change or weight loss? Because this is going to create a lot of, it's going to create a situation where you're not so fucking stressed out or worried about other people's bullshit. Just worry about your own, you know, just worry about your own internal representation and how you interpreted it and your own state of mind and your own physiology and how it affected you. So once you start to recognize this, you might say, oh my God, every time I see that, it makes me feel this. And all of a sudden my behavior is to go stand in front of the pantry and eat chips, right? So it's super important to understand this. And this is why, like in my program, for example, I focus a lot on your state of mind and very, very heavily into that with my one-on-one clients. Because a lot of times where they are has so much to do with this whole mental piece. Okay. So I hope that this makes sense to you. Please, let me know how we're doing in the comments. Like if this is making sense to you or if you have questions, that would be helpful. Awesome. Okay. So we wanted to also share, we're going to talk just a little bit about the metabolism. The metabolism is a stress barometer. And so this kind of goes back to the whole, the whole thing about your parasympathetic and your sympathetic, right? So your metabolism is very much affected by what is going on in your outside world, hence the communication to your hormones, hence also too, what did we talk about last couple of days? The digestion, the food that you're eating, all of that stuff. So are you starting to get the big picture here that it's not just focusing on one thing, it's focusing on many. It's like a symphony, right? It's like an orchestra, like a symphony. And it's like, everybody has their part in that. And if, we have violins that are not working or what have you, then it affects the whole thing. And so that's just like the body. If we have something that's not functioning properly, well, then it's going to affect the whole thing. And so that's why I want to just briefly touch on the metabolism here and help you to kind of understand that we have to, I don't know why this keeps happening, that we have to, sorry guys. Oh my God, hold on. This happened yesterday too. One moment. Okay. That we have to, pay attention to this, and we have to really keep our stress levels down. Okay. Stress equals cortisol. Cortisol is not good. So if you find yourself, like this lady, right? This lady is clearly wearing all the hats. A lot of us, we don't really have much choice because we're a mom. We're responsible for the groceries and the cooking and the cleaning and the baby and the this and the work and the, goes on and on and on and on. But we are in charge of the way that we see things, the way that we process things, the way that we manage our time, what we do with our time, the people that we surround ourselves with, the things that we listen to and or watch on TV. All of those things. It's very, very, very important that you recognize that you are your own biggest advocate and you are the one that is in charge of you. And, the other thing too, and I'm just going to say this as a side note, is that don't feel guilty for taking naps. Don't feel guilty for outsourcing things too. And what do I mean by outsourcing? That means hiring fucking help, for God's sakes, and delegating. Okay. I mean, there's nothing honorable with wearing the busy badge. And sometimes I think a lot of us hide behind the busy badge. Yeah, I'm too busy to do that. Yeah, I'm just so busy. I'm fucking busy. Da, 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 da. Right. And then like, yeah, I'm just going to do it myself because if I don't do it myself, it's not going to get done. Right. Well, that's another bullshit lie. You know what I mean? And so some people, though, it's like they hide behind the busy badge because it keeps them safe. It keeps them from, making the change. It's just another one of those things that they're like, yeah, I'm not going to do it because I can't. I don't have time. That's a big one. I don't have time for that. Yeah, I don't have time. There's just no way. I don't have time. You can always outsource. One of the best things you could do for yourself is hire a cleaning lady. Trust me. It's worth every penny. All right. So just be mindful of the way that you're operating in your day-to-day life. Okay. So I just want to talk about this in the continuation about how that busy badge and how the lack of sleep and how the do, go, iron fist mentality is affecting your brain. It affects the brain. It affects the body, has so much to do with the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenals. Okay, so the HPA axis is what I am referring to. And this is the center of your metabolism. So basically, this is like the governor of your body. So it basically tells your body, do this, do that. So I'm just going to read this up here. So the hypothalamus, okay, an area of the brain just above the stem, gathers information from the senses and receives hormonal inputs from the body. It then sends out instructions via nerve and hormonal output to control the physiology. So it's the command and control center. So it says, hey, thyroid, do this. Hey, adrenals, do that. Hey, gut, digestive tract, I need you to do this. Hey, pancreas, dump some enzymes. Hey, gallbladder, dump those bile salts, right? Hey, stomach, do the movement so that we can turn this, these contents into soup so that we can have the small intestine, the duodenum, right? You guys are all digestive pros now, so that we can absorb this, right? Also speaks to the gonads and ovaries. So this is like, I want you to look at it as like your body's Wi-Fi system, right? So if your body's Wi-Fi system is, like us, like I know, for example, if I'm at the hair salon or something, if their Wi-Fi system's down, that drives me crazy, and so you want to remember, like, sometimes these Wi-Fi systems are down because they're overloaded. And that's the thing with our body, is that if we have a Wi-Fi system that's overloaded, then what's going to happen? Dysfunction. And I talked a lot about that over the last couple of days. So why change can be hard. So I know a lot of times people say, I don't know, like I said, it's just not the right time. And, I got this wedding and this vacation coming up and I'm just going to wait, and it's like, then there's always something. There's always got to be something. But I know for most people, a lot of it is the social situation. It's like, the social aspect. Do the thing. They just can't do their thing. I just want to be me. I just want to have whatever I want, da da da. They lean into the lies and excuses and the temptation. And one of the biggest things is retraining your network, meaning that what we have to recognize, you guys, is that the way that we have shown up for so long is, people expect us to be that way forever, right? And I know for me, like, this is a prime example, was I had such a hard time of making change because I was just so worried of what my friends would think. I was the one who was the life of the party. I was the one who, was always in charge of those social gatherings, and everybody could count on me to stay up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning for their good time. You see? But then I had to retrain my network. I had to retrain them and show them that, hey, I'm going to show up differently. Like, this isn't working for me anymore. Like, I still love you, but I still want to hang out with you, but I got to hang out with you differently, and I have to retrain you. And sometimes it's not just our friends and, the people that live outside of our home. Oftentimes it's our spouses. That's a really big one for a lot of people. Well, my husband likes to have ice cream at night and watch Netflix and blah, blah, blah. I get it. But you know what? Your husband also wants a happy wife. and eating ice cream every night with him watching Netflix is not going to do it, because you're going to just feel more miserable, right? So, we have to kind of choose our battles. So we also have to recognize that we have trained them in the way that we show up. So, like, for example, I talk about this wagon community, right? The you too, me too. Oh, you fell off the wagon too? Oh, I know. I do it every weekend. Okay, you fell off too. Okay, you too, me too. Great. Let's start over on Monday. Okay, I got it. Let's hold each other accountable, girl. Okay, right? So, how many of you have been a part of the wagon community? It's literally an entire community, right? Because what you're doing is validating each other's excuses, letting you know, like, hey, it's okay, I fucked up too, and I fuck up every single weekend, and I'm not changing, so I'll see you next Thursday at happy hour. Do you see what I'm getting at? And like I said, I'm not being condescending. I'm basically talking about myself, and my past when I talk about this kind of stuff, because I get it. I lived this life forever. And I don't do it now because I just got tired of being stuck in the same position, physically, mentally, the same place in life, not progressing. It was just the same old shit show, just different year. So, just be super mindful, but also own responsibility for how you have shown up. Because if you're somebody too, like, if you are somebody that says, hey, hubby, I'm going to start this new thing, and then they roll their eyes and say, okay, here we go again. Well, you have to own responsibility because you've trained them. You've actually trained them how you show up. You've basically showed them that, yeah, whenever I sign up for something or whatever, I don't follow through. So that's why they do that. Okay, so you got to own that responsibility. Also, be mindful of those crabs in the bucket. What do I mean by that? So, literally, if you put a bunch of crabs in the bucket, and if the crab sees that another crab is trying to get out, it'll pull it right back down. And so, you have crabs all around you. Trust me, it might be your spouse, it could be your best friend, could be your mom, could be your sister, could be your kid, whatever. But it's basically, hey, if I can't have it, then neither can you. Okay? And it's like it says here, oh, no, you don't, Missy. You get right back down here with the rest of us where you belong, right? So that's the other thing. People don't like to see you change because it makes them uncomfortable. So, this might be resonating with you because, excuse me, because you might be like, God, that's, I never realized that was always why I never ever succeeded at something, whether it be weight loss, whether it be going to school or a new career, because we were so easily influenced by the people that we were hanging out with. But you don't know what you don't know. You don't recognize it until you start to kind of, put that whole new lens on it. You start to see things. You start to review your life a little bit differently, and you start to be like, oh, I get it now. Right? So it's super, super easy to fall into. And like me, that was my life for a long time. It was like, yeah, I just always gave into that. So, oftentimes people say, I want to change, I need to change, but I just don't know where to start. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be focused on, a lot. And I know that, for some it may be overwhelming, and yes, I don't know where to start. What do I do? And I totally understand that. And so I'm here to share with you that, most of you are very familiar with the fact that, I'm a coach, and that I have been a part of changing many, many, many women's lives through my signature program, which is called the Metabolism Reboot Academy. So that's where my MRA method comes in. And so I basically help people to really review, redesign, and then renew their life, because it really does happen in phases. You have to really focus on different phases. You can't change everything all at once because that's overwhelming and it doesn't work. So I came up with this 3-step method. So it's basically, you don't have to do all the research and, all the things. It's like, I've lived the life. I understand, and I know the different phases that you need to go through. So your strategy, it needs 3 things, which is those 3 things: review, redesign, and renew your life, right? So losing weight can be amazing. It's an amazing process. Why? Because it's not about the weight loss, people. It's about the journey that you take to get there, and it affects so many areas of your life. You improve in so many ways. It's just incredible. Like, for example, my former client, Lauren, she talked about how when she took my academy, how it improved her energy and relationships and changed everything for the better. That is my hope. It's not just about weight loss, you guys. It's always about everything else. So with the 3-step method, it's not a fluffy theory. This is, been tested and proven to work with me, by me and students alike. And here's some examples. You'll see on the left, you'll see that Julie, which I love her dearly, she's since had a baby and such, but this was just fantastic because this is right before her wedding. And I'd called her a Sagittarian because when she came to work with me, she was just eating a lot of beans and cheese and breads and stuff like that because she was trying to avoid meat. And so once I was able to help her, tweak her nutrition and personalize it to her, then she was able to see how she says, I got in my dress, it fit. I love your program. And then on the right is Kimmy, and this is basically, Kimmy I think is at 85 pounds now, but I love this picture, this whole transformation here of her, because it just really just depicts most of her journey. And she's actually my co-coach now. And then this is Alicia. And Alicia, at this time when we worked together, this was her results, but we're currently working together now. more so focusing on her gut. She's more one-on-one coaching with me, but she did do my academy, and now this is where we were at. Check her out. Look at that. So all that inflammation, and I know she's feeling a lot better, doing great. This is Deb. Some of you guys may remember Deb, from my former posts and such. And this was during her beginning phases, and then she sent this to me. We're still working together now, and she's lost over 50 pounds. And so what I'm getting at here is, the method, it's not just a diet. This is about changing your life and changing your lifestyle, changing the way you think, the way that you see things, the way that you are continuously looking and seeking those uncomfortable hallways, like I talked about in the POP method image, right? And then Azalee, I helped her with her hormones and balancing things out so she could conceive. And then Ida at the time was, having trouble with coming out of keto. It was a time when there was a, big keto phase, and she was having issues trying to figure out her tipping points with carbohydrates. So you'll see that this method is not just like some cookie cutter bullshit thing. Like, this is about helping you to discover and uncover those barriers that are keeping you where you are. So it's not just a one size fits all at all, and you'll see the difference in Kimberly on the left. That was literally, that was in 3 weeks on the left side. That just blew my mind. And then on the right side, that's Rachel. And we worked together for several months, because after the academy, there are options, for people to move forward in what I call the mastery. But, it's just continuing to work on themselves and master their journey. And so I guess I just want to ask you, is based on the systems and strategies that you have in place right now, will you be able to achieve your goals? Will you be able to achieve what it is that you desire? Right? Because oftentimes, we'll say these things to ourselves like, I know what I got to do. I just got to do it. Well, if you really, like, part of the battle is there's something wrong there because you're not doing it, so that's where that whole mindset piece comes in, right? So oftentimes let's go back to the RAS, the reticular activating system. So I know what I got to do. I just got to do it, but you're just not doing it, right? So then your brain is doing what? Collecting evidence as to why you shouldn't do it. Yeah, just kind of stay where you are. It's just easier if we stay right here. You're not so bad where you are after all, right? We have this way of convincing ourselves that it's just easier to stay where we are instead of doing the work, right? So with the step-by-step strategy, guidance, and accountability, when you have that, you're going to reach and surpass your goals big time. So I just want to share, I'm super excited. I only launch this program a few times a year, but just to let you know that enrollment is officially open tonight for my Metabolism Reboot Academy. The next round begins May the 3rd. So right now I am offering the early bird rate. And this is for women who are ready to lose the weight, feel great, finally get to the bottom of those root causes, keeping them stuck, both mind and body. And the Metabolism Reboot Academy changes lives. This is I've poured my life into this program for the last 4 years. I'm always updating it, changing it, upgrading it, all of that. So I'm going to give you a little sneak peek. So the review phase, this is a 5-week program, guys. And we help you in phase 1 become the non-dieter that you desire to be. We figure out your metabolic blueprint, your hormones and fat storing. We want to, you want to understand like what it is that you're doing in your day-to-day life that is keeping your body from releasing the weight, but yet hanging on to it. And we go into beliefs and behaviors and really recognizing, why you might be in that all or nothing mindset, starting over, all of that. The next phase is where we start to redesign. This is where we begin to, really make that radical transformation in your nutrition habits, really uncovering like your pitfalls and really helping you to change and rewire those pathways in your brain and understanding, your motivations and getting into the neurotransmitters and, just really diving deep into your own personal nutrition. Because like I said, it's not about a meal plan or cookie cutter, because as you know, food affects us differently. Every single one of us differently. Our metabolic blueprint is unique to us, as is our fingerprint. Okay. And phase 3, this is really the renew phase. This is when it becomes like the be, do, and have. You are really becoming and changing that identity. That's what this is all about, you guys, is really making the change in that identity level. You have to change in your identity level to make things stick, right? If we're not, focusing on the behaviors and the belief systems and the thought processes and really focusing on, balance in our life and setting boundaries and making yourself that priority and really, focusing on the person you desire to be, that's really what we do, is really help you make that change on that level. This is not a temporary thing. Like, as you've seen, there's proof. There's these women like Deb and Alicia, for example, that they are continuing to work this. And even Kimmy, Kimmy's actually my co-coach now. She helps my clients through the program also, because she lives and breathes the MRA way. So for the next 24 hours, if you sign up under that early bird rate, you will get get for free. Actually, there's 4 bonuses. The 4th one is my mindset reset. You will learn how to do EFT tapping, which is amazing, by the way. You will get a 30-minute mini breakthrough session with me. We can focus on subconscious work, NLP stuff, or just talk about whatever it is that you want, but it also definitely has to do with your journey, where you're going. But also my closed eye process audio series, which is my guided meditations, which help to accelerate your transformation in the process, right? So again, here's the tapping into weight loss bonus, and this is basically a similar practice to acupuncture and acupressure, and it applies pressure points that you do yourself, like with your fingers to your face, that are points located in the body's energy meridian, by literally tapping on them. And I teach you how to do that. So it helps you to really move out like bad energy, to help you maybe, release that. And then that way you are, really letting go of like any stress, anxiety, and things like that might lead you to stand in front of the pantry. And then the closed eye process audios, this is all about the subconscious. Remember how I mentioned that the subconscious mind is your goal getter. Your conscious mind, honestly, I call it the cock blocker. We got to move that sucker out of the way sometimes. And doing that through our closed eye process, my closed eye process audios, because as you know, I'm a certified hypnotherapist, will help to bring that subconscious along with us. So here we go. So a total value of over $4,000 could be all yours. And you do get lifetime access to this, by the way, for just $550. That's the early bird rate. Okay, so we do this through a 5-week program. You have live coaching calls that are done weekly. You have weekly check-ins with me. You'll become the non-dieter. You'll become that person you desire so desperately to become. We help to balance your hormones. You learn nutrition that encourages fat loss. And you also have access to a wonderful Facebook community and access to me during that time. Okay, so if you go to kellydunlap.com/MRA, you'll be able to get started right now. And, here's a couple more testimonials. Marianne worked with me for quite some time, and she says, I discovered some staple foods that I thought were healthy for me were actually undermining my success. Here's some more testimonials here. Adrienne went from a 14 to a 10. Lauren, love this. Even Michelle, like I talk about Michelle here too. Was pretty amazing. I remember she came to him thinking, what can I do? Like, you do all these amazing things. And then when we just tweaked a couple of things, it just really made such a difference. Like, look at that from the left side to the right. It's pretty crazy. And it was really, for her, it was more about just reducing that stress for her. So if you do the work, you're going to get the results. As you know, I'm not a quick fix person. I'm going to help you get to those root causes and really help you to get down to the nitty gritty once and for all. Okay. And so the current rate right now for that early bird rate is $550, but it's going to go up on the 27th to $750. So if you're like me and you'd like to save money, then you want to jump on ASAP. Plus, I only accept a certain amount of people. I don't tend to have large groups because I like to keep things to feel a little more personalized and such. So, I only accept a certain amount of people. So again, the space is limited. So today's what, the 22nd. So you have through the 26th midnight, the 26th, and then the price will convert over to the $750. So MRA gets results, guys. Save your spot. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm also available if you were kind of like, hey, you know what, I have a few more questions, or I'm just kind of on the fence, I'm not really sure, just message me. We can jump on a quick Zoom call and, kind of go over some things if you want. But once you do click on the kellydunlap.com/MRA and you get started and you get the ball rolling, I just wanted to give you a visual of what it will look like, when you actually do your, when you do sign on, so that you can see, what that looks like here. So the fast acting bonuses here, I usually set a timer for that for 10 minutes, but I'm going to, let that go for 24 hours. So if you are interested and want to, get started or what have you, or maybe you have more questions or, that kind of thing, within the next 24 hours, if you sign up, then you'll get those extra bonuses and such. But I'm pretty much super generous. And so I always like to have everybody get those regardless. So just an FYI. So let me know what questions you might have. I hope that this was super informative for you. And I really, really hope that you're considering, hey, you know what? Enough is enough. Where I'm at is too painful. I'm ready for the change. I want to, really get down to that nitty gritty. I've seen the results. I know that there's always people watching, but it's really about pulling that trigger, right? And you have to ask yourself, am I leaning into my bullshit excuses? Am I listening to that shit, right? So, all right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Again, we are going to start on May the 3rd. So we have a little bit of time to, get rocking. But like I said, I keep the space limited, but more importantly, if you want to save some dough, you want to get set up ASAP. So thank you so much. These last 3 days were fun and amazing, and I'm really super grateful and honored that you chose to spend your evenings with me these past 3 nights. Please let me know what your biggest takeaways are. The more information that you provide to me, the better, because then that way I know exactly how you are perceiving things and how you are maybe I could improve on how I teach and so on. So have a wonderful night. Thank you so, so much. And let me know if you have any questions. Talk to you soon.